The Boston Greeks podcast is here and ready to bring Greekness back.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Boston Greeks podcast. I am Ari, and with me is my main man, my cubado, my friend, my life partner, Foti Stamos. What's up, Foti? How are you?
Ari, how are you, buddy? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. This is the first episode of 2021, so let's make it good.
Absolutely. I can't believe we're already into 2021 because 2020 felt like it was never going to end.
It really, really did. And now we're here and, keep all hope alive for positivity and better things to come.
Yes. Well, on that same note, I got to say that 2020 also was a time that we kind of learned quite a bit and gave us the opportunity to come up with great ideas like Boston.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the funny thing is there's so much bad that we could talk about for 2020. But, a lot of times if you look deep enough, you'll see that there were a few bright moments. There was a few good things to come out of it. For example, I'm not going to say a lot, but the guest we have today, he said one thing that stuck with me, and he's like, it gave him an opportunity to really get to know new family, future family, right. And things like that. Are the positive. As long as you have a good family life, hopefully you do. Exactly. But there's a lot of positives that come out, and for us, you tell me, how was 2020 for us as a business venture?
Well, it gave us more time together virtually, even though prior to COVID, we were running around doing a whole bunch of stuff, and we always felt like we were always running out of time. Right? But now I look back and I said, look how much we've accomplished because we were confined to our computers and our devices, either home or at the office. And we were able to become a little more productive because we were more focused in this new bubble.
Yeah. And, we're able to reach out to a lot of people, and, ordinarily these people would be very busy, or they'd be out of the country, or they'd be traveling, or they'd be doing this, they'd be doing that. And, this gave us an opportunity to be able to connect in a lot of ways that, not to say it's impossible for us to have done it. It was very possible, but it would have been a lot harder to do.
And the fact that you just mentioned that, people were more available, prior to this, planning out bookings, interviews, appointments, they took a lot of effort and time. Yeah. Now it's like we've been doing things on the fly. We've been able to book people quickly. We've rolled out quite a bit. So on that being said, that 2020 has also given us a lot of positives.
Absolutely. And we launched, I don't know if I could count this high, but I think we launched 6 apps, with another 2 in the pipeline. We would have never been able to do that. That's for damn sure.
We were lucky if we got 1 off the ground prior to COVID.
Let me tell you, in 6 months of COVID, we launched 4 or 5 apps. And I probably wouldn't have been able to do that in a year to do 1 app.
You want to let our audience know what those apps are?
No, I don't want anybody to know nothing. We have we have, obviously, hopefully you guys have the Boston Greeks app, because hopefully you're listening to us right now there. But if you're not, we're also on every single major podcasting network, so it doesn't matter, I guess. But get the app because it's really cool. We got classic nightlife pictures from early 2000s. We have music, we have blogs, we have events, seminars, all sorts of stuff. And so much more coming, radio station. Yeah, we're gonna be radio station with live shows, live guests, interviews, music, events, you name it, we're gonna do it. That's coming in the pipeline. But get the app because we'll have all that information there. And then we have other apps. Connecting is our show with Angelo. Angelo, he's like Cher and Madonna. You just say Angelo. And everybody knows.
That's a great fit right there.
So we have a show with him, and we have an app for that, and we have a lot of cool guests. I mean, global guests for that, called Connecting Greeks. We got Greek Donation, a service for Greek business, charities, Greek, name it, artists to raise money, like GoFundMe, Kickstarter, all that kind of stuff. but fee free on the artisan. So it's like, why not? So look at that. Look that up. Greek donation. We have Urban Wine Club, which is our first app of this new kind of pandemic generation of ours.
Right.
And Urban Wine Club is like a wine social network, so definitely get that. We have a lot of cool stuff there, a lot of cool wine and spirits for sale, also seminars and webinars. Greek Wine Club, another app, which is basically the same as Urban Wine Club, but very Greek specific. Greek Sisters, which is a cooking and lifestyle app for recipe tips and tricks and all sorts of good stuff. What else? Am I missing something?
We also have a fun app that we've launched in podcast. No, it's not an app, but it's a podcast.
Which one?
No Backing.
Oh yeah, No Backing Down. That's a heavy hitter because we work with a sports agent, and you say it's not an app, but it's gonna be an app very soon because I'm working on it right now. But we got a sports agent, so he hooks us up with a lot of cool athletes, famous, Super Bowl champs.
Just a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, so just fun really stuff. Cool. And what else? There's got to be something else.
Greek Zon.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah. So Greek Zon is going to be the really cool, all things Greek shopping app, and we're focusing a lot on artisan products, artisan producers, really cool exclusive stuff you can't find normally. I mean, it maybe someday we'll have like the generic like Greek stuff, but right now it's just really exclusive, really like high end.
Once you get to experience these artisan products, it's hard to just go back to.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I don't like to rule it out, but I'm just saying, like, once you go that way, it's really hard. It's like wine. Like I used to drink like $2 Chuck wine, and now I'm like a super snob, and I don't even know why. But that's my palate now.
There you go.
And yeah, Greekazon is really cool. It hasn't launched quite yet. It's going to launch within a couple of weeks, but to find really cool stuff, really Greek produced things, products, biodynamic, organic, sustainable, all that good stuff.
Again, thanks to the pandemic, it allowed us to seek, search, and source these producers and sources in Greece that are allowing us to bring these products.
Yeah. And then, if we mention that, then we got to mention last but not least, I love Santorini.
Boy,
do you love Santorini?
Just the name alone just gives me goosebumps.
So just real quick, this is going to be a really cool app, free app. All of these are free apps that is going to be basically a tour guide, a regular guide.
Your travel.
Say that again?
Your travel companion.
Yeah. Right? Travel companion. So basically, wherever you are on the island, or even before you get to the island, you could see what's going on and where. If you're on the island, you could see everything around you, how to get there, how far away it is. The member feature shows where everybody is. You can literally see people. Like if you want to go to a club, or you want to go to a restaurant, or you want to go see the sunset, you could see like how many people are there, if it's crowded, if it's not crowded. There's a section where it's going to give like discounts and
review
freebies and whatever at the businesses, restaurants. Basically, this is like the app to have. You could communicate with other people. It's a community. It's going to be super cool. That's coming soon. That's probably like another few months away coming. So we're doing a lot of stuff. Ooh. And go ahead.
Just the sound of it is like that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. That's why I drink.
Yes, exactly. But no, it's all though a blessing for us to be able, bring ideas and thoughts to reality.
Yeah. And, we have this great community, and we're Greeks. We're from Boston. We've done the whole Boston thing, and now we're kind of getting our back into it because we know a lot of people. We have a lot of connections, have so much experience. We are skilled at what we do. Like if you're talking about events, community, web, app, those are what we do. That's what we do. So, we're getting back into it. Yeah. Right. So we're getting back into it. And then, here's our premiere episode of Boston Greeks. And we have a really cool guest.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we've known this guy. I'm sure everybody out there has known this guy, but we've known this guy, and he's done a lot of cool stuff. And we're going to have so many cool guests. We're going to launch it off today with this really cool guest. And he, should we mention it? Or should we just jump into it?
I would say let's just jump into it.
All right, so we're not gonna even tell you. We're just gonna surprise you. So we're gonna jump into it, and we're gonna listen to this interview. A lot of good insight, really smart dude, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So here we go. Here's our premiere episode. Thanks for listening. We have an awesome guest today. I think many of our Greeks in Boston know this person. If they don't know him, they've heard of him. A really cool guy. I've met you. I'm not going to say the name yet. Let's do an intro. But I've met you years ago. Very, very, very cool guy. Down-to-earth guy. Smart guy. Good-looking guy, let me add. And Foti, I'm going to turn it over to you to give a little intro.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have with us our special guest today, all the way from Thessaloniki, businessman and restaurateur, Eric Papachristos. Eric, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, guys. This is a really, really cool thing you guys are putting on.
Thank you. It's always refreshing to us to when Ari and I sit back and we think of the list of all the individuals that we know. And it's like so many of us in our network are doing so many cool things. And why not, promote that and create some awareness around it. So this is the inception of our Boston Greeks podcast, and we are delighted to have you as one of our beginning guests of this journey. But Eric, as Boston Greeks, obviously we're drawing guests from the local Boston, Massachusetts, New England area, and just like us, tell us a little bit about where you grew up, and as a Greek American, what did that include for you going through the years as a Greek American?
Yeah, so I was born in the States, but I spent my really early years growing up in Thessaloniki in Greece, and ended up coming back to the States when I was 9 years old. And we ended up moving to a town called Weymouth in the South Shore. And I swear my brother and I were the only non-white, non-Irish, non-Italian. Okay. So, at that, at 6th, 7th grade, all I wanted to do was just be American. I wanted to play soccer and be with the cool kids and do all of that. So I didn't really participate with, the Greek community here in Boston. Particularly, for us, it was Rosendale that was the closest. Oh. I didn't do the Goya. I didn't do, the church on Sundays and all of that stuff. Yeah, I didn't. So I missed out on all of that stuff. But, I ended up going to Suffolk for my undergrad. And as soon as I, moved into downtown Boston to go to school, I started, working at nights to pay my way through college. And so I ended up, I never had the opportunity to be around Greek Americans here in Boston. And actually, my first exposure to Greek Americans in Boston was the Greek American nights that were going on in the clubs back in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s. And I think that's where yeah, exactly. Yep.
Those are the good times.
Yep.
Actually, knowing what I know of you, I'm saddened by the fact that you weren't part of Goya, because like a guy like you in his teens in Goya, you would have had such a good time. It would have been like so cool to be part of that scene. But, better late than never.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I missed out on that the opportunity to be connecting with Greek Americans, kind of looking back. My brother and I, we didn't identify as Americans, when we were here, because people would look at us as foreigners. But then when we also went to Greece, people would look at us as Americans. So we never really had an identity. And, that's what the Greek American community, or, whatever sort of immigrant American community is around here, they're important, whether it's in Chelsea or in Lowell or whatever part of any town USA, when there's a big immigrant population, having that family, that culture, that unity is always important. And yeah, I mean, it sucked that I wasn't around it. And it wasn't, to be quite honest with you, it wasn't until probably the last couple of years, the last 5 years, that I started to connect more so with Greek Americans in and around Boston and really in the US. And I have a really high respect for that. And we can get into that, further. Yeah. But that's a huge part.
Well, I was going to say, it's funny because maybe if you grew up a little differently, you wouldn't be like so connected now. Maybe it would have just been like the normal for you, and you just would have gone about your business. Maybe it was that kind of disconnection when you were younger that made you so connected now? Just a thought that popped into my head.
Good point.
Yeah. And I also think, which is probably just as important, is that there's a new generation of Greek Americans, which is us, who are, post school. We're sort of in our mid careers. So we have a foothold somewhere. And we want to sort of give back, and we want to give tribute to our culture. And I think to me that's hugely important. And I don't know if that existed 20 years ago in a professional way. So, for instance, you probably know Stratos from the consulate office in Boston. I think Stratos has done an unbelievable job of bringing Greek Americans of all different professions, academics, from all around the world, to bring us really all together in a wonderful room to have really great, strong discussions, cultural discussions, entrepreneurial discussions, science, medicine. So, I took a little bit from Strato, which, I really value what he's done. And I've worked with him in whatever capacity I could in the past few years. Alpha Omega is another sort of professional group that I belong to, that when I got invited to speak at one of their events, I was floored that there were such amazing Greek Americans in the Boston community. And as you guys know, I'm a restaurateur, and there was this old guard of Greek American restaurateurs back in the 60s and the 70s and in the 80s. My dad actually being one of them, which was a very old school mentality. It wasn't bad. It was sort of like, fend for yourself.
Sure.
So there wasn't a lot of camaraderie, with those businesses. I feel now the camaraderie is tremendous out there with Greek American business owners. And, when I started my entrepreneurial venture, which was 16 years ago, I sort of said to myself, I'm never going to do business with Greeks or Greek Americans. And, over the years, particularly the last couple of years, my best vendors are these Greek American companies, which, like Olympiana, which brings most of our Greek stuff from Greece. But, I've recently gotten really friendly with Manny Frangidakis, who has his finance company, his father, who's got Costas Provisions. And they're that new age Greek American mentality where they just want to help and support everyone else around them. So I'm amazed, and I'm so excited to be on this sort of rebirth of Greek American support in the Boston area.
Yeah, we've definitely seen an elevation in our Greek run businesses, and whether it's restaurants, whether it's distribution companies, wine importers, from what it used to be 20 years ago, and it's like so refreshing that finally we've broken out of this mold that's been, in my opinion, has been holding us down compared to other cultures that are out there. And now that we're out there, everyone around us is just so impressed and so in love with the rebirth of the Greek food and wine culture here in Boston.
Yeah. It's been amazing. It's been awesome.
So you discussed growing up in Weymouth, going back to Greece, coming back to the States. You did your studies at Suffolk. While you were studying at Suffolk, did you ever think that you were going to be a restaurateur?
No, not at all. So I grew up washing dishes at my dad's restaurant in Weymouth, this little diner, right? Breakfast, lunch. I never made it to like cooking. It was always, Eric, you got to go wash dishes. So I washed dishes, up until I graduated high school. And then I went to Suffolk and I studied finance, played soccer. I needed money, right? So part-time college job. I started working security at a nightclub. So this is back in 1995, so 25 years ago, right? Yeah, shit. So I started working.
You think 90s, and it's like, just a few years ago.
Yeah, I know. It's great. Probably some of the listeners weren't even born. So I bartended my way through undergrad and through grad school, and for me it was just like part-time gig that I would do at night. But again, having that very immigrant mentality. Like I don't remember taking a weekend off for like 8 years, because it was engraved in our parents when they moved to America. You got to work, set yourself up, set the family up, and support and all that. So I never thought about being a restaurateur. So I finished my master's. I was fairly young. I went and worked at Harvard University, did corporate finance for them. When I got my second master's in finance, and went and worked over at Ropes and Gray, for a number of years. And there came a point where sort of like cross section in my life where a couple of entrepreneurs approached me when I was 26 and said, "Hey, we want to open up a nightclub. Do you want to partner with us?" And I talked to my dad about it, and he said, "If you ever get into the food and beverage business, you will never have my support." And I said, "Perfect. That's what I need." So I left my corner office at Harvard and opened up a nightclub. And that was, sort of the start of my entrepreneurial venture. I was 26. I was heavily in debt to open up this nightclub. But I, had a couple of things that were going for me. One was, again, as I mentioned, the hard work that my parents instilled, and I think our parents instilled in this particular generation.
Sure.
That was a huge asset for me. And I think even still my success as an entrepreneur today is based on the fact that I just work hard. And then the second part of my success is just, being at the right place and at the right time. And as Greeks, and as I come to Greece often, I think this is my fifth or sixth trip to Greece right now for this year. Hospitality in Greece is like no other. And I think that plays hand in hand with the success of Greek Americans in food, in the New York area back in the 60s and the 70s, right? Hospitality is innate in who we are as a culture. So I think for me, having the hard work, understanding hospitality really from a family perspective is what gave me the push to open up my first place in 2004. And then from there, it was it was all history, but man, what a year this has been, speaking about history. But anyway.
So your endeavors did not begin with a Greek restaurant. You noticed that you explained about the nightclub that you opened, but then how did you move into the restaurant to begin with from nightclub?
So, I was 26. I was, this hotshot kid. I was like, I'm going to open up 1 million nightclubs around the country. But, I'm not really into partying. Never really was. And it was a tough lifestyle coming home at 4:00 in the morning. It is a great business model. I mean, the people that do own nightclubs, if you have your head straight, there's a lot of money to be made. But it's also a very tough lifestyle. I mean, and I see my contemporaries who are nightclub owners, that it's not a traditional family life that they have. So that was the first part. The second part was, man, every conversation I had every night was with someone who was drunk, right? Like I was like, man, like I just want to have a good conversation. Right. So so I did that, and I ended up, long story short, I ended up just having dinner at Rialto for a number of years. One of my good friends that I met bartending when I was, 17 years old, he was the general manager of Rialto, which was owned by Jody Adams, who Jody is now my partner in most of my restaurants. And we just became really good friends, and we partnered up in 2011, and we opened up Trade in downtown Boston. I didn't quite know, Jody's really relevance and power in the culinary world. And for me, that was new, right? Because I came from the alcohol side, right, and she came from the culinary side. But we really have the same ethos of hard work and hospitality. And we've been really successful at it. And we've had a great run doing business together. But that was my transition from nightclubs into food. And, so Trade was very a broad Mediterranean restaurant. Then we opened up Porto, which was a little bit of a coastal Mediterranean restaurant. And then, because I'm Greek, I like to bring everyone to Greece. I bring a lot of my friends to Greece. And I was bringing Jody and her husband to Greece, and even her kids, actually, because I was just so wowed by the food in Greece. I mean, aren't we all?
Definitely.
So we just kind of said, hey, let's do a Greek place. And, we did it at a time which, we started Saloniki 5 years ago in 2015, when Greece was having its own renaissance in food. And what was amazing, so our idea was to do a regular gyradiko, right? To do the gyro, the gyro, the souvlaki, whatever you want to call it. So we went to Greece, we interviewed a whole bunch of people, and a whole bunch of shop owners. And what we realized is that 90 to 95% of all the shops in Greece, even in Athens, Thessaloniki, and the Choria around the country, they're using frozen product. I mean, their bread is frozen, their meat is frozen, and there are, enough chemicals in the processing of those foods that didn't make Jody and I comfortable. And that's what we said, that's not what we want to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
So when we came to Greece in 2015, actually the New York Times had written an amazing article about Athens, and I still have actually the newspaper clipping. It was in the food section above the fold, and it was called Athens Uprising. And it was talking about the Renaissance in Athens, particularly Athens, around food, art, and music. Because Greece was going through its economic crisis, and, I can't believe COVID happened in 2020 as Greece was really coming out of the economic crisis. So once they were in the middle of the economic crisis, there was, a lot of this sort of anarchism going on with the youth because, you're 18, 19 years old, you're graduating high school, or you're 21, 22 graduating college, and there's nothing for you to do. There's no job for you to do. So what they were doing, they were inheriting their fathers or their families' giradiko, their, souvlaki place. And they were saying, they're smart kids, right? So they're saying, you know what? The guy across the street is doing gyro. All right, well, I have the internet in my hands. I have, the power of the world in front of me. And so they started to really take food to a whole other level, food, music, and art to a whole other level. And, and so that's where Jody and I and my partner, John, really came up with the idea of Saloniki, right? We did not want to be the frozen gyro place. I just, for whatever it is. And we have plenty of Greek Americans that come into Saloniki and say, this isn't real Greek food. Well, the interpretation is, what is real Greek food to you?
Correct.
And what's amazing now, my fiance and I just finished actually dinner that we got from an amazing concept that started out of Thessaloniki called Ergon. They're worldwide now. But, if you go to Ergon, there's nothing that would remind you necessarily of frozen gyro, frozen souvlaki, or something along those lines. So they've taken the culinary one step forward, and that's really what our idea was for starting Saloniki 5 years ago.
I gotta say that whatever you've put your hands on in the restaurant side, we've been big fans of all of the restaurants because it's all about bringing flavors together and different components of dishes. And as you mentioned, we constantly hear the opinions of different Greeks and Greek Americans, what is authentic and what is true and what is real. But Greece is so regional, and what might be produced in one part of Greece isn't the same elsewhere. So it's all about the interpretation that you present. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Actually, one of the food trips that I did was in 2016. I brought my dad, who, again, born and raised in Greece. I mean, he is all about the traditional food that we all know, whether it's spanakopita to uvetsi, you name it.
Okay.
And so I brought him and my photographer on a food tour, and we spent 3 or 4 days in Saloniki and then 3 or 4 days in Athens. Probably hit about 4, 5, 6 restaurants a day. My dad was floored, at the food that we were eating was not the food that he thought or that Greeks would have done. And, one of my favorite actually restaurants in Athens is by a Greek who spent time in Japan, and I think his fiance or his wife is from Colombia. And it's this fusion, but it's Greek ingredients. There's something about it that's Greek, but it doesn't look Greek, right? So Greece, like everything else, has really taken their culinary steps and their culinary chops so far forward. I mean, to be honest with you, I would love to bring in Greek chefs to America. It's so hard.
That'd be awesome.
But I'm always looking for that. I talk to Strato about that all the time. How can we do
he's got to set up a program.
Some sort of an exchange.
Yeah.
Actually, last year I had a meeting, actually this year in January, with Patty Theokati, who is the Minister of Tourism here in Athens, in Greece, about setting up an exchange program that I could send American chefs to Athens, and he could send me Greek chefs and do an exchange program. Again, unfortunately, COVID hit and it kind of took the whole world by, we got to start from scratch. But yeah.
But that is a great idea. I love that. Can I take up cooking and you could send me over there? Is that possible?
They're going to need dishwashers, Ari.
Yeah.
That's actually that's really. I mean, we're surrounded by Greeks and Greek things and Greek atmosphere, but like I actually learned something, and like some of the stuff you said about the steps that they're taking, I actually wasn't aware of, and that's really really cool to hear. I love hearing that.
No, I was going to say, just, even, every time I come to Greece and I spend time here with my fiance, we're out eating all the time. And she's, born and raised, Thessaloniki. I mean, she spent a lot of time in Athens, but, she's bringing me to places that are just absolutely amazing. And speaking of amazing places in Greece, 2 of the top 10 bars in the world, right, are actually in Athens. Wow. And you wouldn't even, like, in the world, like Boston, doesn't even have these sort of places. And so 2 of them to be out of Athens, again, just kind of shows you how creative, imaginative these, I call them kids, but they're amazing places. Yeah.
Can you share the name of those 2 bars with us? If you
yeah, Baba Au Rum is one of them. And it's like this like kitschy 70s retro bar in an alley in Athens, and it's just so cool. Effing amazing. And then the other one that's probably the even more well known is called Clumsy's. Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, amazing stuff. I mean, every time when we bring our chefs to Greece, or we bring our beverage managers to Greece, they're floored by what Greece is doing. So we're just trying to bring some of that back to Boston.
And as well, you should.
We definitely need that here in Boston. For sure.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get past COVID. So many cool things that should have been executed can finally be executed, and this is absolutely something that should be executed. I mean, and you're honestly, you're the guy to do it. I mean, you have the history, you have the current experience, and the connections who could actually pull it off. So hopefully you will be able to do that, and let's just get through this. And now that 2020 is over, so let's just positivity ahead.
Speaking of COVID, Eric, how are you dealing with this whole pandemic? I should say, with running, as a restaurateur with not just one but multiple locations. How is it for you? That you can probably let us know.
Yeah, it's been a total mind F, right? Like, I think the toughest thing is that we just don't know when the expiration is, right? Like, when can we say, okay, we're past COVID? At first it was a 2-week shutdown, then it was a month shutdown, then it was 3 months. Now, we're close to a year now. It's really hard in our industry in particular. I'm very vocal about my thoughts about it. I think, in short, our government has failed us and has failed my industry for sure. And, there's no support for us. And the ironic thing, and the thing that, gets me the most sort of upset about it, is that whenever, there's a political campaign, where do they first go to for donations? They go to restaurants.
Right.
Where does the Little League go for donations? They go to a restaurant. Where was, the Boston Marathon? We want to do a fundraiser. Can we use your restaurant? I mean, restaurants are the fabric of the community, and I really can't stress that enough. I own a suburban restaurant as well. It's a little bit more apparent to see how important the fabric of that restaurant is in the community. In Boston, it's a little bit tougher to see because there's just so many restaurants. But some restaurants that I think about in Boston is something like Toro. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Toro on Washington Street. Yeah. Like, Toro's been open, I think, probably around 12 years now or something like that. You would never have walked down that neighborhood 12 years ago. Now, I mean, again, pre-COVID, Toro is the hottest restaurant to go to, right? Like, it's a thriving neighborhood. Eric Allenbach has done the same in Southie, in South Boston. He's opened up Lincoln Loco Capo Fat Baby. And he has single-handedly gentrified a whole community. Property values has skyrocketed. He's brought energy to the neighborhood. He's brought all of this, amazing, things to the city. And here we are, every politician is saying, no, shut down restaurants, shut down rrestaurants. So again, I don't want to get into the political part because
we hear you
rabbit hole for a while. But it's been challenging. I think, I laid off 357 employees in one day on March 15th. These are employees that, no one's a millionaire, working in the restaurant business. Everyone is starting out minimum wage. They're in between jobs, in between schools. These are, they pay their rent with this money. They're paying their college tuition with this money. And, it's really hard to let those people go. One of my lead investors in one of my companies is a professor at Harvard Business School. And sort of like 2 months into this pandemic, I called her up and I said, hey, do you guys have a course on how to handle your business through a pandemic? The short of it is it's no. There isn't sort of a playbook. We've done actually relatively well through the pandemic, but that isn't necessarily saying much, right? We're holding ourselves above above water. Yeah. We're trying to be successful. Again, we're trying to be pillars in our community. We're trying to support our community, and we're trying to support our staff. Every single day, we're just trying to think about how can we do better and serve better, and how can we come out of this pandemic stronger. Sure. I have to say, knock on wood, I'm more fortunate probably than some others. I think I've built an incredible team behind me that's been able to weather, or I would say weather is the right word, that has been able to struggle through the COVID process with us, and landlords that really understand the value that we bring to their building. So it's been a struggle. We're going to come out of this. We're all going to learn a whole bunch of stuff.
Crazy,
amazing. As you said it, we got to all hang in there. Patience, obviously. We try to keep it together. Who knows how long that's going to last, but we're hoping that 2021 is the beginning of this turn. And, we can't wait till that ends so that we can come out to the restaurants and enjoy life like we used to know it.
Yeah.
You also mentioned, you're in Thessaloniki, which is also, Greece now is also on another lockdown. So how is that for you versus the situation in Boston or Massachusetts and the lockdown there in Greece?
So I've been coming to Greece through this pandemic now, right? From the beginning, I spent a month in May. I'm here for another month now. And then I came, through the summer for a couple of weeks at a time. I have to say, this is the toughest that I've experienced Greece with the lockdown right now. I don't particularly enjoy it from a political standpoint and from an economic standpoint. I'm loving my time here because I'm hanging out with my fiance. We're redoing the condo. We're in middle of construction. Her parents live across the street. We have amazing food at our fingertips. It's actually, it's really, really good. But it's tough. It guts me to see, Greeks here not being able to live life as they've known it. Right. At least in America, in Boston, we at least have the freedom to get in your car, drive wherever you want, walk around Boston with a mask or without a mask. You don't care, right? It's America. Live free or die. Here in Greece, you're mandated to wear a mask. And, there is this oppressiveness that comes down, and everyone's scared about the police. They're going to write you a €300 fine. And, they're living a bit in fear. And, I feel bad because, again, they were just coming out of this economic crisis that lasted well over a decade without any support. And they managed it on their own. And now to see them kind of get back on the bottom of the barrel and try to, lift themselves up, it's a little bit tough to see. But, what's really interesting is this morning I went out for a bike ride for about an hour. Most of the people that I saw outside were probably over the age of 60, 70, 80. They're out there, they're exercising, they're wearing their masks, but, it left an impression on me like, man, how come, we're so unhealthy in the States. Like, you have 70-year-old papudes walking around Saloniki here for exercise. I just love to see it. Cool. They just mandated another stricter measure that starts tomorrow. It's supposed to end by next week. Supposedly the schools are going to start a week from tomorrow. So, on January 12th. So it's been tough to see it.
So do they see the numbers coming down with these measures that have been in place recently?
It kind of like the U.S., right? It depends who you talk to and what you read.
Right. Okay.
I did read an article yesterday that Greece again is sort of on the lower end of positive tests, which is great.
Sure.
But again, we just don't know the relativity of all of this stuff and what it really means. I just want to see the country and the world get back to normal and give everyone a chance to fight for their food at their table again.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, on that note, Eric, once we get past this sooner than later, anything that you'd like to share with us of what might be in the pipeline for Eric?
I'm always a little bit quiet about the pipeline because the pipeline changes so quick and so fast. The growth of Saloniki is very important to me. And we are looking ways on how to keep growing the brand. Certainly locally, we're not overly ambitious to talk about anything outside of Massachusetts necessarily yet. But we are looking at deals and we're looking to expand the company. We just have an amazing team behind us. And awesome. I just don't want to kind of put that to waste. There's some real estate development stuff that I'm, working on. But I think, what's more important to me is once we get out of lockdown, once we get out of, these measures and face masks and stuff, sort of the refocus for me in restaurants and building the communities, connecting with people, that is so, so important for me. Sure. I mentioned Stratos. I have a couple of Greek American friends, Nico and Yanni, who I've recently met. We meet once a quarter. We go out to dinner and we talk about investments and we talk about this and we talk about that. I'm actually more excited about my personal stuff than I am, than probably I've ever had. Getting married to my fiance is an exciting thing for me. That knock on wood, everything goes well this year. But yeah, I'm one of those guys that, I think my mother-in-law or my soon-to-be mother-in-law just mentioned to me the other day. She said, Eric will never have to worry about what he's going to eat. Meaning, you take everything away from me. I'm going to figure out how to get up. I'm going to figure out how to build. Right. There will be some exciting stuff. I don't even know what's going to happen. I'm just excited to reopen all of my restaurants, particularly Trade, Porto. I have a Saloniki at the airport that was supposed to open last September, but because of COVID, we halted construction. And the Saloniki at the airport is going to be at Terminal E. Okay, so cool. Everyone who's going to be going, international, people are going to be going to Greece. Hopefully they'll yeah, exactly. So I'm excited about that.
That's so cool. Well, we're definitely excited for you because you give us inspiration to be proud as Greek Americans to have such wonderful places for all of our friends who are not Greek and for our colleagues and so forth to recommend. Information-wise, do you want to share with us for our audience how people can find out about your restaurants? Is there any common website or any handles that you want to let us know about?
I don't have a common one. Saloniki Greek is probably sort of my biggest audience. We have the 3 stores in Fenway, MIT, and Harvard. Then I have Trade as well. I've got Trade in downtown, and I have a Trade at the airport. Porto as well, which is in Back Bay. And then down on the South Shore, just opened a new restaurant there about a year ago called the Venetian. It's not Greek, it's Italian. I wanted to play with pasta a little bit.
How dare you, Eric? How dare you?
I know.
I think at some point the Greeks had developed that area a long time ago. So there's some Greek roots in that area.
Absolutely.
Fati's turning into the father from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, tying everything back into the Greek.
We all do that.
Yeah, we do.
Right?
That's amazing. Yep. Amazing things. It was actually really interesting to hear from your perspective because it's, like I said, we're surrounded by this all the time, but like every time you speak to an individual, you get, this different perspective that you're like, oh, wow. And you definitely brought that. And we thank you for sharing that with us and amazing success that you've had. And I'm sure, again, knock on wood, because 2020 taught me never to assume anything, but like we're sure great successes in your future. And whenever you take these trips to Greece, Fati and I are available. We are just hanging out here.
I'll keep that in mind. Just get your stomachs ready.
Absolutely.
So, Poti, you wanna?
Yeah, definitely, Eric. Again, we wish you a happy and healthy 2021. Did you mention that this is the year of getting married?
Yeah, he did.
This is the year, yeah,
Well,
2021.
good luck to that.
Thank you.
We
And
definitely.
you stated your in-laws are going to be across the street. Is that good or bad? Is that it would scare the hell out of me?
Yeah, no, it's
Good.
I gotta say, there's some interesting things that happened through COVID, right? Like everyone sort of learned something. It actually gave me an opportunity, like it forced me to spend a lot of time in Greece, and I actually really got to know my in-laws from a very different perspective. It actually was a wonderful thing because if we didn't have COVID, I would have been going back and forth with my fiance, and we wouldn't
Right.
have had this time. So no, it's oddly enough, it's a good thing. They're amazing, amazing people.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear.
And Eric, this is not, hopefully this is not even though this is the first time with this, it won't be the last. We definitely would like to bring you back on at some point again to kind of give us the updates on what's going on.
Absolutely.
And also on the wine side and on the other sides, because he's all part of the industry.
Yeah,
And we do a lot of cooking stuff. We do a lot of wine stuff, and it would be cool to connect with on that level.
Yeah, we definitely would like to have you participate, and you and your team as well to participate with us on our other webinars that we host.
Would love to.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
On that note, Eric,
Cool,
thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Ari, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, I want to say also, Eric eats a lot, but he's in really good shape. So that's another thing that we here in America need to focus on, because, like you said, he eating constantly, and you're certified in something, right?
Yeah, I've been a CrossFit trainer. I've done everything from triathlons to bodybuilding shows to the PMC, which is a 200-mile bike ride every year to raise money for the Dana-Farber cancer research. That's like near and dear to me. And I have to say, again, not another sort of COVID political issue here, but staying healthy is so important. And ironically enough, here in Greece and the news, we see it broadcast all the time, like make sure that you're eating healthy. So, I think Greeks in general have good genes. Here's my biased opinion again. But it's been actually very helpful during COVID to ensure that I'm taking care of my body, taking care of my brain, taking care of the people around me. So
I could not have said that better myself. It's so important. And obviously, Eric, you're making us look bad, but my goal is to get a little bit better. And everybody out there, like Eric said, it's very important. Eric, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
We know you're in Greece, and you got some good food to get to. And we want to thank you again. It was awesome. We learned a lot. And again, you'll be seeing Eric with us, hopefully many more times on many different levels. Thank you, Eric.
Happy to do it. I look forward to it. Take care, gentlemen.
Take care.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
guys. You too.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye.
Yes, sir.
And there you have it, guys. That was our interview with Eric Papachristou. Very cool guy. I like Eric a lot. He has a lot of good ideas. He's a hardworking guy, a staple now in the Boston scene. And like we said before, you guys, I'm sure you guys know of him or him. I find it hard to believe that you haven't come across his name somewhere. But it was a great interview.
Amazing. Just to listen to what goes into the mind of an individual who, if you think about it, he's waking up to multiple restaurants. He makes time to take care of himself health-wise.
Oh yeah.
He's traveling, he's meeting, he's raising money, he's working on future projects. Like, sometimes we say to ourselves, there's just not enough time in the day. But if you really think about it, I guess there is. If you really become disciplined and determined and just have a really strong foundation of a work ethic.
If I grab my coffee and I sit down at the computer and I forgot my water, I'm all bent out of shape for the rest of the day. So it's like, yeah, you got to learn from people like this.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's inspiring to hear what goes on or behind the scenes when you see these headliners, or when you see all these great restaurants when you drive by, like what goes into it. And it really takes, I think, special individuals to make it happen. And
Absolutely.
Eric is one of those special individuals.
Yep, he absolutely is. So yeah, all right. So that was our premiere episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun, and obviously we're going to be doing, so many more. We're going to try to hit a weekly basis. While COVID's still around, it should be pretty doable, I think. We'll see how it goes after, but I think we have a good we hit the ground running, and I think this is our 4th podcast and probably not even our last one, meaning how many podcasts we do.
Right.
So we have 3 other podcasts we do, and you have to get all our apps, like we said before, so you can listen to all of them. They're all on the apps, and they're all on the major networks. They're Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartMedia, Amazon, like they're everywhere. So you have no problem finding them.
Can't miss us.
And what?
You can't miss us.
No, you can't. And as long as you don't mind the sound of my voice, like go and listen, because if you listen long enough, you'll get used to it, and then you kind of like it, I think.
Unless we get some voice filters for you.
I should do something like a robot voice. Like, hello, Fadi. Yes. But yeah, so Eric, thanks again. We appreciate your time. I believe our next lineup is going to be, who's on our next episode?
Well, one of our dear friends, General Consul Stratos Efthemio.
That's a doozy right there. This guy's done a lot for Boston. Really cool guy, very nice, personable, and he seems like the type of dude you could just like walk in and chat, and he will like be totally down.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Look, I'm looking forward to that as well, as always.
All right. Well, that's coming up next. We hope you enjoyed it. We thank Eric, Foti. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank me for whatever.
Yes.
You want.
Always.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We will see you. Download the apps, download the podcast, listen, watch. Do it. Just do it. Do it. We're here. We're here for you. And
Absolutely.
Stay tuned for everything we got coming. Thank you.
Yes, us.
Yes, us.